Well, time now for some more expert commentary here on the show. I'm joined by Paul Brown, tax partner at WR Partners. Now, Paul, before we start talking about some of your business advice, you're a company with operations both sides of the Welsh border, aren't you? So how do you feel about the lockdown that's coming this weekend?
Well, it's just the latest in a series of challenges that we've faced in running the business over the last 6 months, as with everybody else. I think we're still understanding exactly what the lockdown's going to mean for our Welsh offices, but I think one of the beauties of what's happened for us over the last few months is that we've managed to really develop a way to work far more flexibly as a business than we did in the past. And so whilst it is going to be a challenge, I think we're pretty confident that we'll be able to adapt and respond to it as we need to. So.
Now, WR Partners is a really fresh brand, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So tell us a bit about the story of that, the thinking behind it.
Well, I think the thinking behind it really was that, you know, we're really heading into a new age for sort of providers of accountancy services, and we want to move away from just being that traditional accountant where we prepare a great set of accounts for you, a great tax return, but then you don't necessarily really hear from us for 12 months. And so what we want to do is to really be working with our clients, with their businesses, to help them grow and develop. And we wanted to refresh the brand, and that's why we introduced the tagline of protecting your future, which is kind of really underlining that we don't just want to be backward looking, we want to be looking forward with our clients and help them to sort of achieve their personal and their business ambitions.
Talking of forward looking, we've got the furlough scheme, which is coming to an end very soon. We've got various sort of replacements in the pipeline. What sort of things are businesses talking to you about at the moment?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of businesses are talking about potentially how they may end up having to lose staff as a consequence of the hit that they've taken over the last 6 months. I think clearly we have got a transition from furlough, which ends on 31st of October, but the drop that people are taking in terms of the level of support that they're going to get from the government as we move into job support scheme is really quite significant. We're going from, 60% covered by government to less than a third covered by government for people's wages, and the mood music is very much around not just protecting any job but protecting viable jobs. So our clients are really having to sort of do a lot of workforce planning and understand exactly what that means for them. You've also got clearly a lot of businesses have had to take on a lot of debt over the last 6 months. Everybody's heard of bounce back loans and C-bills, and we'll hear a lot of talk about VAT deferrals and things like that. And a lot of businesses, although the government have allowed them to spread those repayments further into the future, are really having to work out, well, how are we just going to fund those repayments? How are we going to cover that level of debt into the future when we've got such uncertain terms about, we don't know when our businesses are going to return to whatever the new normal is going to look like.
Are you finding that you're having to inform businesses about what the situation actually is at the moment, or are you mainly finding that you're having to help them and they know what the situation is and they want your advice?
It's really mixed. We've made a huge effort over the last 6 months really just to make sure that we are keeping people informed. And as we were talking about, we've spoken about earlier, that there's a pace of change with what's happening in Wales, for example. We've seen over the last few days, it moved from the Welsh Government publishing information about grants for local lockdowns to how they're going to deal with the national lockdown. So really clients we're trying to get clients to a situation where they can focus on running their business, and we can really just focus on delivering them the information that they need to make those key business decisions. Some obviously are much more on top of it than others, but I think we've seen it as well as informing, but helping people to interpret and understand what it actually means for them as well.
Is it possible for you to come up with a fairly generic checklist, maybe a 1, 2, 3 things that businesses out there should be looking at the moment to try and safeguard their future?
Well, I think absolutely understanding cash flow is really, really important. Understand where those big lumpy costs are going to start kicking in. We've got loans that are going to start having to be repaid. Really looking at workforce planning, really just making sure that they understand what their people needs are going to be going forward as well. And probably the third thing really is thinking about how they can adapt. Because I think every business went through a phase where it was running to really just try and understand exactly what the lockdown as it initially meant for them. Those businesses have really sort of looking well to the future, us thinking about, well, what does our business model look like into the future? We're not necessarily just going to continue as we were pre-lockdown. So what can we do? New customers, new markets, how can we deliver our products more in different ways and really adapt to the circumstances we're going to find ourselves in?
And talking of circumstances, final question then. Before COVID, there was one word that was dominating all our headlines, Brexit, which almost seems to have been not forgotten, but it sneaked up on us a bit. You know, barely
Absolutely.
2 months to go. How ready are we, do you think?
If I'm brutally honest, I think not very. And I think a part of the reason for that is frankly because it's not absolutely clear what the picture is going to look like post-Brexit anyway. So clearly we've still got ongoing discussions, or maybe we haven't got ongoing discussions with the EU. But I think there's a sense in which people are thinking, well, if we get a trade deal, then essentially nothing's going to change. But the reality is that even if we do get a trade deal with the EU, there is going to be significant change for businesses, whether it's through their supply chain, whether it's in terms of dealing with customs clearances, there might be VAT changes. So I think there's been a sense of we're clinging on and hoping for a deal and everything will be fine. But the reality is if we don't get a deal, there will still really be impacts on importers and exporters.
Lots for you to do then, Paul. Thank you so much for your time.
To keep me occupied, Carl.
Good to see you. Thank you very much.